have to tell you, I'm way more excited about being here with you guys tonight. So I'm going to tell you about my life. I started life being a guy born into a pretty good family, a good area. No excuse for the trouble I got into, but there I was the one that had trouble. My older brother, older sister, and my younger brother didn't have the same problems I had. I was restless, I was in trouble all the time. But luckily I found motorcycles, and it was just the love of my life. I loved it more than anything. And it kept me out of trouble. And I started racing at 15 years old and just excelled and took it right to the top, and won 2 pro championships, and I wanted to be world champ, and I was headed that way, and it looked good. And then I started getting hurt. First my shoulder, then my other shoulder, then my left knee, and then my right knee. And at the ripe old age of about 21, I was retired. And I was angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at my dad for not helping me more. I was just angry at life. It seemed so unfair. And I just had stayed sober and stayed away from drugs in school, and now that's wore off. I just went crazy, cocaine and alcohol, and going out to clubs. And it didn't take too long. I was buying more coke than I needed so that I could afford mine. And sooner or later, the cops knocked on my door. I was living in Los Angeles where I grew up, and I got in trouble. I did a little time in LA County Jail, and a friend of mine, there was a stuntman on Dukes of Hazzard. He said, "Hey, if you teach me how to ride a motocross bike, I'll get you in the stunt business." And I said, "Okay, that sounds cool." And it's not racing, but it's better than what I was doing. So I started doing that. I did well, actually. I doubled Sylvester Stallone in First Blood, and I was, making good money and flying here and there, and it's a pretty cool business to be in, and exciting, and traveling all the time, making good money. It doesn't really satisfy in the heart, but it was a living. And about 4 years into that, I was working on a movie in Birmingham, Alabama, and it was a pretty easy stunt, really. Mel Gibson was in the back of this big 10-ton stake bed truck. There was 25 guys in the back of this truck, and it was driving real slowly into the steel mill, and I was a striking worker with a baseball bat, and we had a mob there. We weren't going to let them come in, and they're just cruising real slow, about 2 miles an hour. I beat the windshield out, and I'm on top of the truck, beat the windshield out, then I go up on top of the cab, and I take a swing at Mel Gibson with my bat, and the guy next to him throws me off, and I go off backwards, and 6 stunt guys were running along next to the truck to catch me, kind of my safety. It worked great in rehearsal, but unfortunately the director got the extras all fired up, and they came in swinging for real, and it was a real fight, and only one guy got to me. He fell towards the truck. I crushed him and went under the truck. I got those dual rears right over my chest, and I heard every bone snap like twigs, and I knew I was dead. Everyone there knew I was dead. But I'm laying there and I can't move. I'm kind of temporarily paralyzed, but I keep breathing. And I figured I'd just be gargling, but I kept breathing, and I couldn't move. And I told the stunt coordinator, who was my friend, he was kind of over with me, just with his hands like this, going, "Oh God, no." I said, "Alan, I'm going to die. Call an ambulance." And he looked at me, couldn't even believe it. I called an ambulance, and I didn't die. Here I am. So, but I was really messed up bad. I had a lot of injuries. So, I did recover well enough to be let out of the hospital after, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks, and then I recuperated for a while in the hotel there. But they asked me to go back on the set. I think people thought I was dead, and they were like, "That guy died," and they're just not telling us. So I kind of hobbled back on the set, and even Mel Gibson came up, and everyone was so happy to see me, and he even said, "I've never been so happy to see somebody. We knew you were dead," and that I wasn't. So But everyone went back to work, but these two guys stayed behind, and they were really serious. I'm like, we want to talk to you. And I'm like, whoa, like, what's up? And they said, you were dead, and God kept you alive for a reason. He's got plans for you. And I was so loose a while back, and I said, yeah, you know, I'm gonna do this and that, and yeah, he's got plans for me, this is my plans, right? And they just shook their heads like, no, you idiot, you wait, you watch, he's got plans for you. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, see ya. And so, I'm kind of thinking like, what's wrong with me? Now I've had 2 careers completely destroyed. I can't go back to stunts. I'm like, really, I walked around like this for about a year. And so I thought, well, I need to change gears. I'll go into construction, because I always did that when I was hurt racing motorcycles. I just had a natural kind of God gave me a gift there for construction. And I always thought it was kind of a cruel gift, because I didn't really love construction. But, you know, there's a living, I had to do something. So there I was doing construction. And I got very successful, made a lot of money, but something was missing. And I didn't know what it was, and I wouldn't know for a long time. The racing kind of kept me not noticing that there was what turned out to be a God-shaped hole in my heart, but I didn't know what it was. I just knew I needed to be always moving and doing something. But the racing used to keep, you know, to kind of make me not realize that, and the alcohol and drugs kind of did the same thing, and it's a cheap imitation for what we really need in life. But again, I didn't know what I really needed. It would be a long time before I figured that out. So I thought, well, I need to race again. So I started racing NASCAR. I won 2 track championships at Saga Speedway, and that's in California, Los Angeles area. And I thought, okay, well, this is cool. You know, I'm gonna do this, and I'll phase out of construction. I'm gonna go NASCAR, and it looked pretty good. You know, I won these championships, and everything was good. And then my older brother died, and all of a sudden, my racing, it was just like God pulled the plug on that, and I couldn't win, and it was like something was wrong. I was like, what is going on here? And I'll never forget this. By then, I had made a lot of money in construction. I'm looking around, and all my toys, I had an ocean racing boat. I never thought in the world I would have an ocean racing boat. That was for rich people. And I used to laugh and say, when I heard the people say, you know, money doesn't buy happiness, and I didn't have money back then, I'd say, you give me money, I'll show you a happy guy. Well, guess what? I finally had money, and I'm looking at all this stuff. I got 2 race cars in a huge shop that was my dream shop, my dream home, my dream wife that I couldn't stand by then. I couldn't stand myself probably even more than her. I'm looking at all this stuff. I'll never forget this. I remember looking right at that boat and saying, you know what? I don't even want to take that boat out. I don't even know why I'm alive. And about that time, one of my really good friends had a really bad crack cocaine problem, and I'd stay away from it because I knew it was a loser drug. And I went and saw him, and I was drinking a lot then. I was drinking earlier and earlier and drinking more and more. And I said, man, what are you doing smoking that stuff? It's such a loser drug. And he's like, yeah, but you know what? I hate life, and you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know, you're right. Give me that pipe. He said, no, you don't want to do that. I go, no, I don't care. Give me the pipe. You're right. And I started smoking crack, and you know how it goes, man. To NASCAR, race car, the race car hauler, a beautiful truck, a wife, and a beautiful home, all were gone in less than a year. I was just, I was all in, that's all I did, and lost everything. And it was a big mess. But I meet this girl, and we are like a 2-person crime wave. All we did is smoke crack and stole so we could afford to do it, or stole drugs to do it. We're constantly moving, and she's always getting pregnant. We're having children and trying to straighten out, but we can't, and it's just a disaster. And we're always moving ahead of the police, because they're always like, you know, right ready to grab us, and we would move. And we went all over the country. We went from Los Angeles to Hawaii, to Kansas City, to back to LA, to North Carolina, to back to Hawaii, then to Kansas City. And when we got to Kansas City, unfortunately, before we went to Kansas City and Hawaii, our fourth child, she was breastfeeding, fell asleep, and I woke up and said, "Where's little Willie?" He was 6 days old. He was dead in her armpit, suffocated. And I tried to give him mouth to mouth, and there was no bringing him back. And, you know, I've had some bad things happen. I thought, you know, it was rough losing my racing and that, but losing a child is like nothing I've ever gone through. And I didn't know the one that would help me get through something like that, and still for a long time. Now we're really messed up. Her parents, or her mom really, had our children taken away from us legally. We were a disaster, we deserved it. But the next thing I know, she gets pregnant again. Meanwhile, her mom has talked her into divorcing me so if she can get the kids back, but now she's pregnant, we take off and go to Montana. She's trying to start over again, and she's pregnant, and we do. We actually stayed away from drugs, did pretty well for a little while, but, you know, it's just like everything else, you know, you do on your own strength for a while, but when you get bored or tired, you find somebody. She found somebody in the market. I came home from work, and she said, "I met these people, they do meth, and you want to party?" And I said, "Yeah," but I was bored, and just, again, that hole in my heart, and I didn't know what it was. So we start partying, and boy, in this little town of Montana, wrong place. They were onto us so fast, and there was no leaving town. They grabbed her and my young 6-month-old now boy. They got them. She's facing 100 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. We don't have any money, we're drug addicts. They're looking for me, and this is bad. I know, you know, there's no out of this, and so I don't know what to do. And I'm driving around with this girl that I knew, that we used to party with, and they've been looking for me for about a week. And we were running out of gas, and there's a gas station right up ahead, and we had to stop and get gas. And all of a sudden, I'm seeing in my mind, like I'm looking at that, me getting arrested at that place. And I'm like, "We can't go there." She's looking at me like, "Why?" I said, "Because I'm gonna get arrested if we go there." She goes, "How do you know that?" And I said, "I'm seeing it in my head." Well, now she knows I'm crazy. And I just knew God was saying, "You need to come, or it's gonna be bad, like utter blackness." It scared me. And I said, "You know what, just go there. If I get arrested, that's God's answer for me." And the very first car that went by was the sheriff. He looked me right in the eyes. I tell people I was arrested by God, it's like, "Oh, it's there he is," but you know, and he arrested me. And there I was, handcuffed and looking. And there's the white car that I saw in the vision, and the black car unmarked, and a city cop and a Valley County sheriff. This is in that little town of Montana. And I remember the first time I ever been arrested. I've been arrested a lot of times and done a lot of time in jails. And it's the first time I ever had times of peace. I wasn't like, you know, I get arrested, I won't run, you know. I was like, "Okay, God, I will always believe you were real, but I never believed you were this personal, that you would take time out of your busy day, running the universe, to show little old me, drug addict me, loser, you know, what's gonna happen in my life." I said, "So you just tell me what to do and I'll do it." And I wasn't really ready for the answer, because when I'm sitting in that little jail and there's no bailing out, I got a $100,000 bail, I don't have 100 cents. I see it, it's craziest thing I see in my mind. It's like, you know those no vacancy signs in a motel? Just kind of flash little bulbs. I could see, read the Bible. And I'm like, that can't be right. I never read the Bible. I thought people who read the Bible were whacked, and I thought the book was wrong, because I've been taught that in the best schools in Los Angeles. Yeah. A real joke. It's pretty sad, but that's, you know, their truth. So I said, well, I guess I better start reading the Bible, so I'm not going anywhere. So I started reading it, and I would get so angry. I could not understand the book. I would throw it against the wall, had a foul mouth, and I was in bad shape. And, but I would always go pick it back up, and I just kept picking it back up and kept reading it. And during that time, God had to do some work on me, because I was still blaming God and my dad and the authorities and everything else for all my problems. There's a Bible verse that I like. It says, "The foolishness of man ruins his way, and then his heart rages against the Lord." That was me. I was blaming everybody. And I was in church one night, and I was complaining, like, if God's so good, blah, blah, and so loving, and, perfect, blah, 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 how come he's allowing these prosecutors to throw me in prison for the rest of my life? I'm just a dope fiend, They're accusing me of being the biggest drug dealer that ever hit Montana, and then going for the full 100 years. They're gonna make a poster child out of me while you come to Montana and sell drugs. And this guy looks at me. This guy was a killer. He goes, "Did you do it?" I go, "Do what?" He goes, "Sell drugs." I said, "Yeah, but," and I was gonna say, "But it's not fair what they're doing. It's not accurate." And he goes, "What are you complaining about? You deserve death." And it's the first time in my life I didn't say something like to put him down or whatever. I just shut up. I thought, maybe I should just listen, which I did. And that was one of the things God started working on me. Like, quit pointing your finger. And then the next thing was a book called The Road Less Traveled. And the first line in the book was, "Life is difficult. This is one of life's great truths. Once you accept that life is difficult, it no longer is so difficult." And that really, it just smacked me in the face. And it was like that moment of clarity I needed. And wow, I've ruined my life not accepting that that's how life works. How come I would work out so hard? I mean, Harper almost would about die to get stronger to race motorcycles. And I accept that pain. But how come I won't accept that this is how God works with us? We have these spiritual trials and we get stronger. And I said, "Okay, God, I'm sorry. I've been a big baby. I'll quit doing that. I'm gonna quit blaming everybody. I'm gonna quit blaming you. And you just tell me what to do, and I will do it." That was a very important moment in my life, because it was shortly after that, and I had been in this jail for 4 months reading that Bible. And it's a supernatural book. You can only understand it by supernatural means.
Amen.
Yeah, so I just had this, disconnect. I couldn't understand it. A couple Proverbs made a little sense, and some of the stuff in the book of James, but the rest of it, I didn't know who Jesus was. I couldn't understand that. And I was reading about Jesus on the cross, and all of a sudden God revealed who Jesus really was. He took that veil away, and I almost pictured him opening up my head and just filling my brain with all this info. And I just burst into tears. I was so glad all the other guys had gone back to bed after breakfast. Nothing worse than sitting there bawling in front of a bunch of inmates. But I'm just sitting there marveling. I'm looking around at the walls going, wow, I might be in prison the rest of my life, but I finally feel like I'm free. And that hole in my heart that I tried to fill with racing and money and girls and success, I finally know. And God brought those two guys to my memory. And I went, wow, you really do have plans for those guys from the movie set. They said God had plans for me. And I was just marveling, going, wow, I can't believe how good I feel. Might be locked up the rest of my life, but I'm finally free. And so I wrote a poem, and that wasn't me. And I'm not a writer, I don't really, like that, but there it was. And then the next time I saw my attorney, he goes, for 4 months, every 2 weeks, he'd come and say, I don't know what's going on. And the same day at work, every time, I don't know what's going on, but I can't make a deal for you. Well, guess what? I got born again, got right with God, and the very next time I saw him, he goes, I don't know what's going on, but they completely changed their tune on you. And I'm like, I know what's going on, that's God. You gotta get saved. And he's like, oh, that's good for you. I'm telling you, it's the real deal, you gotta do this. And he said, great, you want the deal? And I said, yeah. So I got 20 years with 10 suspended. And another crazy thing that happened, only God can do this. I had gone to the judge and asked him to lower my bail from $100,000 so that I could maybe bail out of this place. And he would not lower that bail. And at the same time, I was also asking the pastor if I could come to his place called Isaac's House, which is a lot like this, only it's a lot smaller, but it's the same idea. You know, helping men coming out of jail and out of rehabs and stuff. And he would never talk to me. He's like this tall, and he just looked right over my head and ignored me. And I know God would say, don't listen to this guy, he ain't right. But the second I got born again, the next time I went to church and saw him, he looked me right in the eyes for the first time and said, hey, I'm gonna come see you on Tuesday about coming to Isaac's house. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. I didn't even ask, you know, and cause I gave up. I didn't like that guy. But he became great friends though. It's amazing, you know, when you get right, you get born again, and you totally surrender to God, how he just changes everything.
Yes.
And so there I am in front of that judge, and guess what? The guy who would not lower my bail, he said, "You're a flight risk. You know, I'm not lowering your bail. I shouldn't raise it." Well, he lowered my bail to OR. I walked out. Zero. And yeah, only God can do that. And I love that Bible verse that says, God takes the heart of the kings and moves it whatever way he wants, like a channel of water. And I saw him do that. And I've seen him do it a lot. When people get right with God, everything changes. So there I was at Isaac's house and learned how to live life on biblical principles and just really writing a lot of poems and just one of you guys, well, all of you really, that gave testimony tonight, just feeling that, like, man, I can't believe this is awesome. And so it was time for sentencing. So, and I had been doing great for 3 months, and I thought, well, maybe, you know, the judge might say, hey, you know, you're doing great at Isaac's house, you can stay there. And so everybody came in, all my mental health people, and the pastor, and all these different people, all my drug groups. He said, this guy's doing great, you should leave him there. And so the judge heard all that, and he says, wow, Mr. Harper, you have some really glowing reports here. Sounds like you're doing really good. He goes, but I view you as a major methamphetamine drug distribution network with pipelines of meth from Los Angeles, Kansas City, Hawaii, to our little town here, so I'm going to sentence you to 20 years in prison. I reject the plea agreement because we had actually brought it down even lower. And so God had warned me. He goes, you're going to be going to prison. Just be ready. I was ready. And so I was actually, for the first time in my life, I faced it like a man and said, okay, God gave me the strength to say, okay, I'll play. You know, I'm ready to go to prison. And I was amazed because, you know, there I'd been free for 3 months and thinking maybe I didn't have to go, but God strengthened me to deal with it. And I was actually in my heart, you'll read, I'm going to give you all a book tonight, and you'll read in there about, I went in, got in the orange suit, and went back into the cell, and I wrote a poem about going to prison. It's pretty lighthearted, and I thought, wow, not only you could, you know, make me able to face this like this. So I went on to prison, and I had to do at least 2.5 years behind bars. And so, but then after about a year and 4 months, I found out they have this provision in Montana. It's called inmate worker status, and you can go to a pre-release center and become an inmate worker. And you actually make more money, you get $6 a day, and live in a lot better place. You're not in prison. And so I applied for that. Should have never happened, but God was doing something amazing. There's an old guy and this middle-aged lady troll people, and this guy was so nice to me. I was like so surprised. Like, wow, this is God, you're doing something here, because this guy was way too nice to me. And the lady kept looking at him like, did you bump your head? What are you doing? And he was adamant about getting me out of prison. She wanted me to stay there. He's got court-ordered treatment to take care of, and he's got, and I was like 926 on the list, so I wasn't going anywhere. And she goes, he's just gonna have to wait to get his treatment, his court order. And he goes, no, we gotta get him to pre-release. And she kept looking at him like, what are you doing? he said, we can send him to Connections Corrections. And she goes, yeah, well, we don't do that. He goes, yeah, but we can, but we don't. He goes, okay, Mr. Harper, how's that sound? You're going to Connections Corrections. And this lady's ready to lose her mind, but he was obviously the boss, so I got out of there. And what was really cool is right before they rolled me up, they don't have to let you know when they're transported, because it's pretty dangerous. And I was out in the yard, and I could just feel God saying, you're leaving her tomorrow. And I said, well, let that be you, Lord, I want out of here. I've been here for a year and a half, right? And so I kind of straggled behind the rest of the guys, and we were going back into the pod, and the two guards there. I said, so what time am I leaving tomorrow? And they looked at me, and they pulled out their legend, and how did you know? And I said, come on, you guys listen in on the intercom, God's got me on a different program, because we used to have Bible studies in my cell, and they go, yeah, I guess so. And I saw my name on there, so I had a lot of fun with that, telling everybody, yeah, God let me know, I'm leaving tomorrow. And everyone was, 7 a.m., Harper, roll up, you're out of here. And they're like, it was good testimony, because they knew what I was doing. I was reading my Bible, I was praying, helping guys, and they were getting flopped, and they were parole eligible, and they were getting flopped for a year. So that was good. And I encourage all of you, you're just a walking testimony. Right. You all have a story that was bought with a horrific price. Don't ever let that dark side say, well, you can't do that because you're this or that. No. You are all valuable. Don't ever listen to the dark side and say you're not, because I guarantee you, if you go and give testimony here and there, you don't know the lives you'll touch. You might never even hear about it, but you'll hear about it in heaven one day.
Amen.
You'll hear the trumpet, and they'll say your name, and they'll talk about what you did for storing up heavenly treasures. So truly, you're all valuable. Remember that. You'll feel it more and more as you do this walk. It's amazing. So I'm now in the pre-release center as inmate worker, and I get 6 months of that, and then I graduate into the resident program, and now I'm able to go get a job on the outside, which I do, and I get an amazing job. I'm working indoors, making good money, working a lot of hours, and it's really important in Montana because it's can be 40 below there, and you have to ride a bicycle. All you have a driver's license. I didn't have a driver's license. All I have is an inmate status ID card. It's an inmate across real big, and that's in Montana State Prison. And so there I am. Now, that was my job there in this apartment building, and now I've graduated that program, but I'm not parole eligible yet. I have 2 months to go before my 2.5 year in behind bars is up. Well, I haven't even been behind bars for the last 9 months. I've been in this pre-release center, and so they allow me to go on the live-out program, which means I live in the community, and I'm still answering to the pre-release center, but I'm an inmate in the Montana State Prison living on my own. So I get an apartment at the apartments I'm working on doing fringe carpentry, and it's a beautiful apartment building. This was all high-end, first class. So there I am living in luxury. I'm cooking steaks, and I look down at my inmate status ID card, and I'm looking at this place I live in, and I'm a free man, basically. And I said, wow, Lord, I'm an inmate in the Montana State Prison, but here I am living in luxury, flipping steaks. Yeah, it's amazing what he restores. So I get done with those 2 months. Now I'm free to do whatever I want. I'm like, oh man, I'm going to start Harper Construction. Nothing will stop me. And like, I feel like the kid with his hand in the cookie jar. And I was like, what are you doing? I'm like, what? He goes, no, you're not doing that. I just had this conversation in my head. What am I supposed to do? Go back to Isaac's house and help others like you were helped there. Yes, Lord. So I forgot those plans and went back to Isaac's house, and I'm sitting there working, helping guys, and it was awesome. And then my little brother Meanwhile, he's become one of the biggest stunt coordinators in Hollywood. He just got done with Iron Man 1, he was starting Iron Man 2, and he calls me. Now you gotta realize, I used to be his hero because I was the champion motocrosser, I was his older brother, and but I was turned into a loser, and so he just didn't even talk to me anymore, because he just broke his heart. And but he calls me, and he goes, "Hey, I hear you're doing really good." And I said, "Yeah, I've never felt better in my life." He goes, "Well, I'm starting Iron Man 2, so if you want to come work on it, if you can get permission, you can come down here to LA, and we're going to be starting in a month or two." I said, "Well, I'll check." I asked my PO, I said, "Hey, can I go work on this movie in Los Angeles?" And he's a superhero junkie, and he was so excited. He was happy to my place. He said, "Oh man, can you get me a shirt?" So I worked on that, and you saw these other movies I worked on. It was funny because I showed my brother, I go, "Hey, look what this Better Way place put together for me," and I played that on my phone for my brother. And it's because of him I worked on all those big movies recently. He goes, "Wow, you worked on some really big movies." So anyway, it's pretty funny. He's really doing well. But I started working on these shows, and one of my POs, I got a different PO after that, and I'm still a felon on parole till 2024. I mean, I've been on for 16 years now. Sober for 16 years. I've never been able to do that for 16 minutes. And, so yeah, it's been pretty amazing. It's just amazing what the strength God can give you to go through life's trials. A strength I've never had, and being born again, it seems like most of you are pretty spirit filled, so I think I'm preaching to the choir here. But anybody that's holding back at all, man, go all in. Don't hold back. Ask God to search your heart and figure out what's holding you up if you're struggling, and just say, "You know what? No, I'm going all in," because I'm telling you what, working for the Creator of the universe is the most awesome thing you can ever do in your life.
That's great.
I just read John's book a couple months ago when I flew back to LA, and I read it straight through, and I just marvel at what God does. Look at this place, what He's built. He's as big of a loser as anybody, right, John? And me too, but you know what? When you go all in, you don't hold back, it's amazing what God does.
Amen.
So I encourage anybody that truly isn't, all in, just trust Him and do it. Right?
Yes.
What do you got to lose? You got everything to gain. And so, I think that's about all I have to share with you guys. If there's any questions, I'll answer questions. Also, I brought books for everybody. I hope I have enough. I think I have about 82 books, so we're not close. If there's more than one person in a group, maybe you can share if there's not enough for everybody. So, any questions? Yep.
I was just wondering, what's your personal favorite movie that you got to be on?
They really just all kind of, I don't want to put it down. It's a great profession, but truly, this is the best movie I've ever been on. This is really
What was the main scripture that kept us from it keep on?
Galatians 2:20. I've been crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. In the life that I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and delivered Himself up for me. If that's true, which I know it's true, because He proved it, nothing can get me, because it's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
The universe dwells in me through the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So how can anything go wrong? It might look wrong for a minute, but afterwards I say, this was just a test. I'm stronger now. I that's how I see trials now, as basically like working out to get stronger. I see it, I feel it, I go, man, this is not my favorite thing, but I can do this. We talked about earlier, Jenna, right? We talked about Philippians 4:13. I used to see that on the bench press in prison. I can do all things.
Yes, amen. Praise the Lord.
Those are important. It's so important to realize that death, burial, and baptism and raised from the dead, we're united with Christ in the same likeness. We died to our old self, and we're raised to new life in Him and powered by Him. So that's why those scriptures to me are so important, because I was saying, I'm not a public speaker, I've always hated it, but God does something to help me do this, like this, in my weakness, His strength comes through me, so I'm able to even stand up here without getting sick. And truly, He strengthens us for so many things. We can put up with bad behavior from people and family members in love. Somebody was talking about love earlier, and yeah, love. And that's what God brings us. We love because He first loved us.
Amen.
So, let it in your heart. There's a poem in my book, but I don't have it memorized. I do have one memorized. I'll part with this. It's called "Criminal to Christ," and everybody's a criminal. You know, we look out on drug addicts and you know, kind of that stuff worse. But I think God sees prideful people probably worse than a suffering drug addict. But this poem I like. It's "Criminal to Christ." My criminal mind working all day, Satan was pleased leading the way. At first it seemed fun, but soon I realized I was a slave to what I despised. Having no hope, in total despair, fragrance of death filling the air. I cried out to God, I give, I am done. The change was profound when He sent His Son. My life of crime came to an end, accepting the love and grace He did send. From criminal to Christ, the end of my strife, the change was complete, from death unto life. So, I say choose life, and God bless you all, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, that was, fellas, just, once again, every time I hear this meat and potatoes story of redemption from drugs and addiction, it just reminds me just how good God is. He's not a respecter of persons, and He's got something in store for you guys like that as well. You just gotta get up like He did, basically make the next right choice, and God will restore what the locust ate in your life, as He did mine, as He did Will's, as He did even Johnny. I mean, what a pop, just getting his driver's license, man. Yeah. The weak things of the world shame the strong, and the things that are not nullify the things that are, that none should boast before Him. And so Jesus is always an equal opportunity employer. Come one, come all.
Amen.
And that's the beauty of the cross. We overcome by the blood of the Lamb, which cleanses all of us, saint and sinner, from Billy Graham to the vilest person.
Yes.
He cleanses with that blood. But we overcome by the word of our testimony, and just the power of that testimony, like we'll share tonight. It's just, you can't make that stuff up. And when you can't make it up, you know that only God can do it. Yes. And so what we heard tonight was just another example of just the goodness of God in the land of the living. We not only get to hear the story, but we get to see the fruit of the story. And so I just thank you again, Will, for sharing that. It's always powerful just to hear the story of redemption, and I'm glad that you didn't die underneath that truck.
Survived, or it still sticks out.
Yeah. Hey, he's one of us. That's the way, we're just fortunate to be here, right? Anyway, give him another hand. Thank you.